So last week something quite surreal happened to me, and I'm still trying to come to terms with it. I feel the need to share the story to lighten the burden I'm carrying. It all began when my family invited me to dinner for a gathering. Typically, I don't mind covering the bill. My parents are aging and have limited finances, and my sister has never hesitated in enjoying a free meal. I usually let it slide, but this time felt different. We ended up at an upscale restaurant where a drink costs as much as a week's worth of groceries. Initially, I thought it would be a pleasant evening and I could manage the bill. The restaurant's ambiance was delightful, and I was in good spirits. However, things took a turn for the worse when the waiter came to take our orders. My entitled sister, known for her sense of entitlement, started joking about my role as the payer. She commented, "You're simply the wallet, aren't you? We should have brought a suitcase." My parents and everyone else chuckle as I stuff all the cash in. It feels like a playful moment, but there's a hint of something more pointed behind it. As the orders start coming in, and everyone chooses the most expensive dishes, I begin to feel uncomfortable watching the bill add up. This level of extravagance is beyond what I've seen from them before. When my sister jokingly calls me just the wallet, it finally becomes too much, and I struggle to maintain my smile. But something in me snapped. I leaned back in my chair and calmly said, "No problem, I got this." But inside I was boiling that I didn't say anything more. I just pulled out my phone, made one quick call to my business partner, and then stood up. "Where are you going?" my sister asked, still laughing. I just looked at her and said, "You'll find out soon enough." And then I walked out of the restaurant, leaving the sound of their laughter behind me. I knew they'd think I was just being dramatic, but what I had planned next would hit them in a way they wouldn't see coming. About 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my sister. "What the hell? Are you coming back?" She snapped, her voice high-pitched with irritation. I let the phone ring for a few seconds before answering. "Did you think I was joking when I said I'd handle it?" "What do you mean handle it? You just left. You can't leave us with the bill." I stayed calm, my voice cold. "I didn't leave you with the bill. I just called in a favor." "What favor?" she sued. I could hear the panic in her voice as I reassured her, "Don't worry, the bills have been taken care of." My smile widened as I continued, "You should be receiving a call from the restaurant shortly." In the background, my dad's voice inquired, "What's happening?" while my mom's fretful murmurs followed. Suppressing a grin, I dropped a hint. "Remember that investment opportunity I mentioned? It's relevant." My sister, impatient, demanded, "How does that fit in?" "Quit the games." With a calm demeanor, I explained, "I have a business associate who has a good rapport with the restaurant owner. The manager knows exactly who to contact if there are payment issues." Pausing for effect, I let my words linger before the silence set in. "Are you serious?" my sister's voice cracked. "You called in a favor. Are you trying to ruin our evening?" My mom's voice joined in seeking clarification. "It's under control, Mom. They'll handle it." Despite my reassurance, my sister expressed her frustration. "This is embarrassing. Seriously? You can't just leave us with the bill. This is a joke, right?" she exclaimed. I shrugged, knowing she couldn't see me. "No joke, have fun," I replied before hanging up, feeling satisfied with the chaos I had caused. Not long after, I received another call, this time from the restaurant manager. "Is this my name? We've been notified that you've placed a hold on the payment for your family's dinner," the manager informed me. "We had to call them to settle the bill, and it looks like your sister is very surprised." I couldn't help but chuckle at the situation. "Yeah, that sounds about right. Let them sort it out. I'm done," I stated, my voice filled with satisfaction. The manager hesitated, but I could sense their nod of understanding. "Thank you for your compliance." After ending the call, I sat back in my chair, feeling a peculiar sense of contentment. Uncertain of what would transpire next, I passed the responsibility onto the other party. Anticipating a reaction, I knew they wouldn't take it lightly. For so long, I had been the one shouldering the financial burden, and I felt it was time for them to acknowledge who truly held the power. As I relaxed, a text appeared on my phone from my brother, questioning my actions and leaving me momentarily deflated. This was only the beginning. Reclining in my car, I observed a flurry of messages flooding in, each one expressing disappointment and confusion from various family members. My brother's text was the catalyst followed by a succession of inquiries from my sister, mother, and father, all expressing their concerns and frustrations about the situation I had created. Stunt aside, what really had me laughing was my sister's message. "Sister, I can't believe you. You've ruined everything. This is embarrassing. You're just going to let us suffer over your stupid little revenge," she wrote. I wasn't in the mood to explain myself, so I left her texts unread for a while. Instead, I decided to keep driving, seeking out a quiet spot to gather my thoughts. I had no regrets. They all had overstepped, and perhaps it was time for them to face the consequences. About an hour later, my phone buzzed once more. This time it was a call from my sister. "Pick up, pick up, pick up," she practically screamed the moment I answered. "Do you realize what you've done?" I let her rant for a minute, allowing her words to sink in. "Yeah, I realize exactly what I've done," I calmly replied. "You left us to foot the bill for dinner, and now the restaurant is threatening legal action for non-payment," she yelled. "This is serious. How could you do this?" I could feel that familiar smug satisfaction rising within me. "Isn't it amusing how? Orcs, you're not finding this funny now, are you?" she exclaimed, taking a deep breath in an attempt to calm herself down, but it was futile. "You can't possibly understand the gravity of this situation. We're all in a bind, and it's all because of you." "Oh, I believe I have a pretty good idea," I retorted, matching her cold tone. "I've been in the position where I've been footing the bill for your entire family's meals for years. It's draining." There was a brief pause before my sister spoke again, this time in a softer tone. "Well, maybe you've been too focused on what we've been taking, rather than realizing how much we actually need your help." A glimmer of hope flickered inside me. Was she trying to reason with me? Was she showing vulnerability? Before I could respond, she unleashed her frustrations once more. "This isn't fair. You've ruined everything. Everyone is furious with you. You're not just seen as the provider anymore. You're now the villain, and we won't forget this." In the background, I could hear my mom still conversing with the restaurant staff. "Sure," I replied, "you can call me whatever you want." My voice was firm as I spoke, "But I'm not the villain here. I've been taking care of this family for years. If you all want to keep taking advantage of me, that's your choice. But don't expect me to just keep letting it happen." There was another long silence before my sister spoke again. "I don't know why you're doing this. We're family. We're supposed to help each other out, not make each other suffer." "Then maybe you should start helping me out," I shot back. For once she was quiet for a moment, and for a brief second, I thought she might be reflecting. But then her next words hit me like a punch to the gut. "Well, if you think we're just going to let you get away with this, you're wrong. You've made a lot of enemies today." I could practically feel the weight of her anger. It wasn't just about the dinner anymore. This had become something much deeper. Something personal, something greater. "I suppose we'll have to see," I stated firmly. "But please refrain from seeking my assistance in the future. My own priorities now take precedence." Without waiting for a response, I ended the call. For the first time in a while, I felt a sense of certainty in my actions. I no longer felt the need to justify myself. Assuming they would eventually come to terms with the situation, I believed that would be the end of it. However, it unfolded differently. The following morning, my inbox was filled with a new wave of messages, each with a distinct tone. "Sister, I am no longer speaking to you. Our relationship is over." Read one. "Mom, how could you do this to your father and me after all we have done for you? Is this how you repay us?" questioned another. "Dad, is this how you believe family should behave towards one another? I am deeply disappointed in you," accused the third. Despite feeling a heavy weight in my chest, I remained resolute in my decision. I had made my choice and was unwavering in my stance this time. Yet as my phone began to ring, the name of my brother illuminated the screen. The moment I answered, I braced myself. "Pick up," he said. "Don't hang up, just hear me out." I crossed my arms, waiting. "Go ahead." "Look, this is all spiraling out of control," he began. "Mom's crying, Dad's about to lose his temper, and now everyone is mad at you. It's like you flipped a switch on them. Why do you have to make things so difficult?" My stomach churned. Why do I always have to pick up the slack for everyone? You know, no one asked me if I was okay with paying for everything. No one said thank you for years of doing it. No one even thought about how much I was sacrificing. But now that I've decided to say no, suddenly I'm the villain, he sighed, clearly frustrated. "I'm not saying you're the villain, but this This isn't the way to handle it. We're a family. Families stick together. You can't just cut us off like this. I felt the old guilt creeping in. Was I being too harsh? Had I gone too far? The thought lingered for a second, but I shoved it away. You think I haven't stuck together with this family? I snapped. I've been carrying the weight for all of us for years, but I've received nothing in return. It's not just about the money, it's about respect. I've had enough of being disregarded. There was a long silence on the other end. Then my brother, speaking softly now, said, I understand, but this goes beyond money. It's about our family. If we don't address this, it could tear down everything we worked for. Despite his words resonating with me, a part of me hesitated to fall back into the same old routine. I wanted to see how committed they were to maintaining our family bonds when their comfort was at stake. I'm not the one who needs to fix this, I asserted. You all can handle it yourselves. Before he could respond, I ended the call. I couldn't continue sacrificing my own well-being to keep others content. An hour later, I received another text, this time from my mom. We're heading over to your place for a discussion. Ignoring us won't work. I stared at the message for a moment, feeling. For a while I had sensed the tension mounting. My mother rarely visited unless the situation was dire. Steeling myself, I braced for their arrival. It wasn't long before a knock came at the door. Opening it, I found my parents and my uneasy brother waiting outside. We need to talk, my mom stated with a cool yet not hostile voice. I stepped aside to let them in, sensing that the discussion would not unfold as I had anticipated. Without preamble, my dad cut to the chase. How much longer will you continue like this? We understand you can't always foot the bill, but you can't just walk out on us like that. You can't prioritize a mere dinner over your family. Defiantly, I crossed my arms, holding my ground. You've been neglecting me for years. It's time for me to address it. My mom shook her head disapprovingly. And you believe this is the solution? Leaving us with a $500 tab to make a point? Looking at them, I could feel the tension escalating. Having contained all my pent-up emotions, I didn't just hand you a bill. I presented you with a choice. Have you come to realize how you've taken me for granted? For the first time, I detected a hint of regret in my father's gaze. However, it came too little too late. Maybe you're correct, he mumbled, eyes facing the ground. Perhaps we've undervalued you. Before I could reply, my sister burst into the room, her eyes filled with fury. I can't believe you're playing the victim here. You shattered our family, and now you think you've emerged victorious. Standing up, I braced myself for what lay ahead. The confrontation was far from finished. My sister's enraged eyes blazed as she entered my living room, trembling with anger. You destroyed everything, AG. Do you believe we are indifferent? Is this all just a game to you? Taking a deep breath, I endeavored to remain composed amidst the brewing storm right before me. This was a side of her I had never witnessed before. She was typically so collected. But with a ruined and unrecognizable look, I shot back, tell me, when did you ever care about what I was going through? Or is it only when it's convenient for you? Stepping closer, her voice rising, she continued, you're not superior to this family. You can't act like you're the only one who has been contributing. Her words struck harder than expected, but I refused to back down now, especially after all that had transpired. You believe I'm above this family. I laughed bitterly, unable to contain the sound. You've got it all wrong. I'm the one left holding everything, and I refuse to pretend it's okay any longer. In the background, my mom and dad stood silent, watching the heated exchange unfold like helpless spectators to a train wreck. Although I briefly glanced at them, my focus remained on my sister, still seething in front of me. So this is how it's going to be now? She spat. You just walk away and leave us to deal with your mess. Do you think we won't come for you? Incorrect, my heart fluttered nervously. Her words carried a dangerous undertone. I couldn't decipher if it stemmed from desperation or something more sinister. Perhaps it was a mix of both. I'm done running, I asserted quietly, surprised by the steadiness in my voice after so long. I won't continue to clean up after everyone else's mess. If you're angry with me, that's fine. But the responsibility to do better is now yours to bear. Her nostrils flared in response. You'll regret this, she warned, the storm brewing in her eyes. Despite the impending confrontation, I stood my ground. I was weary of being the scapegoat, exhausted from being the fallback option. Uttering those words felt liberating, like shedding a heavy burden. Instead of engaging further, she abruptly turned and exited the room. A fleeting sense of guilt washed over me before dissipating. I refused to be manipulated any longer. My brother, who had observed silently, finally interjected. "This situation is spiraling out of control. There are no winners here. Can't we settle this peacefully?" Although his tone was composed, I sensed, "I understand your frustration, and I see why you're upset, but we all need to work together to resolve this as a family." This cycle of trying to move past issues only for them to resurface is wearing on me. It's time for a change. I firmly stated that it's over. No more pretending everything is fine. Moving forward, I will prioritize my own well-being. A heavy silence filled the room as my mom acknowledged that they hadn't realized how difficult things had become for me. She offered to give me space, but her words felt more like resignation than a genuine apology, leaving me uncertain about how to feel. I had said all I needed to say. I instructed them to leave and close the door behind them. In the days that followed, there was a noticeable quietness after I shut the door on my family. No calls, no texts, just silence. Initially, I thought perhaps they needed time to cool off, but the stillness felt ominous, like the calm before the storm. Conflicting emotions swirled within me. On one hand, I felt relieved to have some space, yet deep down I missed them. The weight of past grievances and manipulation lingered heavily on my shoulders. Then everything changed. While sitting at the kitchen table, casually browsing through articles, I was startled by a knock at the door. It was too early for visitors, especially them. My heart raced as I cautiously approached the window blinds to peek outside. There stood my mom, brother, and dad on the front porch, all appearing as though they had been awake for hours. My mom held something tightly in her hand, her expression inscrutable, and tension filled the air. The air turned my stomach as I hesitated at the doorstep. My initial instinct whispered to flee, but a text message from my brother interrupted my thoughts. "We need to talk. Please come out." Guilt and anger mingled within me as I considered their request. Despite being fed up with their games, I couldn't ignore the underlying urgency behind their visit. Reluctantly, I opened the door. Stepping outside, I felt the weight of their expectations pressing down on me, a reminder of the familial responsibilities I couldn't escape. My brother spoke first, acknowledging the previous conflict, but emphasizing the importance of communication. Despite my internal turmoil, I couldn't help but feel conflicted at their plea for reconciliation. "Why should I even consider listening to any of you after what you've done?" I challenged, my hands trembling with emotion. The unspoken tension hung heavy in the air as my unanswered question lingered, daring them to respond. "Prevent her. I have consistently been the one responsible for cleaning up your messes, covering expenses, and repairing what you damaged. You have never shown me respect. Instead, you've treated me as a backup and a source of money." I paused to glare at each of them, ensuring they understood the seriousness of the situation. "Do not." Dad finally spoke, his voice surprisingly composed, yet carrying a firm undertone of authority. "We have all erred, but this isn't the solution. We are here to reconcile. You cannot just walk away, and I won't allow it." The nerve of them. They failed to comprehend why I was upset. They still believed I was at fault. As Mom took a step forward, she held something wrapped in a cloth. With a pleading expression, the same one she had used repeatedly to manipulate me into compliance, she said softly, "We got this for you," as she unwrapped the cloth to reveal an old family photo album. I gazed at it, feeling a twinge of nostalgia, but it was just that, a feeling. I wasn't going to allow myself to be swayed by emotions again. My brother scoffed at the idea of a photo album, fixing everything, questioning my beliefs. "We're trying to make amends here, and you're behaving like a child. This isn't helping anyone," he remarked. This ignited a fire within me. I expressed my frustration, highlighting how they had used and manipulated me, leaving me feeling worthless for years. There was a tense silence as my dad's composed demeanor showed hints of frustration. He tried to guilt me into staying by invoking family values. I stood my ground, refusing to be manipulated further. As I declared my decision not to return, the atmosphere was charged with emotion. My brother was visibly angry, and my mom seemed on the brink of tears, but I remained resolute. And with that, I turned away from them, firm in my stance. I turned around and began walking back toward the door. My dad's voice grew louder with each step, I took calling after me. You think you can just walk out on us like this? You'll regret it. You'll come back running just like always. Ignoring his words, I didn't even glance back. I forcefully slammed the door shut behind me, the noise reverberating through the otherwise quiet house. Just as I was about to leave, I heard a harsh whisper from my brother, so filled with anger that it sent shivers down my spine. You'll pay for this. We'll make sure of it. I stood rooted in place with my back against the door, feeling my heart race. Despite the urge to lash out and scream, I knew it wouldn't make a difference. They would continue their efforts to pull me back into their world, but this time I was adamant about setting boundaries. Pulling out my phone, I accessed the family group chat from my contact list. With a sense of finality, I typed out my message, determined to break free from being their fallback. This is the end. I'm cutting all ties with you. I refuse to be your backup any longer. More, I've given enough. If you can't respect that, then don't reach out again. I hit send and placed the phone back in my pocket, feeling the weight of my decision settle in. I wasn't waiting for them to apologize. I wasn't waiting for some perfect family reunion that would never come. They could try all they wanted to guilt trip me to pull me back into their drama, but that chapter of my life was over. I had finally let go. So that's where I stand now, cutting ties and walking away. What do you think? Was I wrong for doing this, or should I have given them another chance? Let me know what you think in the comments below.